Aloha, everybody. Hi, I'm Janet Carolesson. Welcome to Aquarian Media, and today I have Susan Plunkett, and she's in New York, or you're in East Coast.
New York City. I'm in New York City.
New York City. I haven't been there in 20 years. So anyway, Susan's got a new book, and she's going to tell us about herself and her new book. So take it away.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for having me on. Hello, everybody. As Janet said, I'm Susan Plunkett. I'm a clinical psychologist. I live in New York City, in Greenwich Village, and I make a living as a psychologist in private practice, treating people who got a lot of anxiety or depression mostly. But in addition to, I should add that I'm a Jungian psychologist, which means I follow the work of Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, who really felt that dreams were the best way to get to know yourself or anyone else. So that's mainly how I spend my days, talking about people's dreams. Sorry about the siren in the background. I hope you can't hear it. We have so many sirens in New York City.
Can hear. I did a workshop in downtown in about 99 or 2000, and I said, "Wow, it's so noisy." And they went, "What noise?" They hit the
I know, you tune it out usually, but when you feel someone else might be listening, it's like, ooh, they don't want to hear that. But anyway, in addition to being a psychologist in private practice for the last 35 years, I became a writer about, 14 years ago, late in life. And recently, my publisher, who's in the United Kingdom, had an idea that he would like to put forth a series of books on the paranormal, or what Jungians refer to as numinous experiences or transcendent experiences. And he invited 5 writers to each write a little book, 75,000 words, on their own paranormal / transcendent / numinous experiences. And so I wrote one for the series, and it came out in October, a few weeks ago. And it's basically, the series is called Paranormal Perspectives, but my title is called A Jungian Understanding of Transcendent Experiences. And by that, I mean, I look at my own experiences as a Jungian psychologist, and the experiences I'm looking at from before birth to age 75 are on SteamYard. Everything is backwards.
Yeah, it's funny. I can see it. It's fine.
Yeah. I share in this book. It's 19 chapters, and what I share is 19 unusual experiences that I had beginning before birth to age 75. And at the end of each of the chapters, I write a paragraph of how you can promote that experience in yourself if you want to. The book starts, as I said, before I was born, and I know about this experience through the work of another wonderful psychologist, Michael Newton, who was in Southern California before he died. And he did a lot of past life regression work with people to help them understand what was bothering them in this life. And he noticed that many of his patients were not going to past lives. They were going to some other place, which they described to him as the life between life place. So I guess between all of our lives, we have this in-between place where we make some decisions about maybe what we're going to do. So he developed a protocol so that anyone can do this. It's called life between life regression, and you can do it at the Michael Newton Institute, or sometimes he has other psychologists that do it in other parts of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so when I did mine, I specifically wanted to do it because I wanted to talk to my younger sister who had died very quickly of aggressive cancer, too young and too fast. And I wanted to see her and talk to her. So I went to the Life Between Life place, but I also learned other things there.
Where did you go? Because I discovered Michael Newton when Borders closed. What was that, about 10, 15 years ago now? And I
Yeah.
read his books and I just absorbed them. And then Sasha said, well, let's go do some training. And we couldn't find any place to go by that time. Michael Newton.
If you contact the Michael Newton Institute, they will put you in touch with a psychologist who does it. And
Mhm.
if you can, the psychologist that I worked with was Dr. Paul Arand.
Mhm.
And he, after my experience with him, which was 2 4-hour sessions of,
Mhm.
he asked me if I wanted to train to do the work, but I didn't, because my real work is analyzing dreams, and I wanted to do that. But if you want to get that training, call the Michael Newton Institute, find a psychologist who's doing that, and they will know how to get you to be trained. I mean, it was very tempting to me to learn to take the training to help people do it, but I just love dream work so much, and dream work takes you all over the universe.
Oh, yes.
It takes you to the Life Between Life place also, but I just love, we're so free in dreams. We're so brilliant in our dreams. We're so creative in our dreams. But anyway, what I
Yes.
discovered, and also in the Life Between Life, was I knew I had a twin. I was supposed to come with a twin, but
Mhm.
my mother lost, the twin didn't come, so she only had one baby left, which was me. And apparently in the 8th month, they thought I died too, but then I must have come back and decided to be born. But
Mhm.
her name was Sophie, and she became my imaginary friend when I was a toddler. And many toddlers have imaginary friends. And, parents of young children are very familiar with this. But Sophie decided not to incarnate. So the first story, the first transcendent experience in the book is me and Sophie in the in-between life space, because there's no time in that space, and her telling me that she's not going back, and me being sad to go alone and scared. She was too scared because, as she said, we knew great masters who were afraid to cover their light in flesh,
Mhm.
because it's a hard thing. I mean, it's challenging. It's a great opportunity to be a human because you can achieve enlightenment. I've heard tell, I'm not enlightened,
Mhm.
from a human body, but it's also a scary and painful place. So that's one of the things I share, my Life Between Life regression experience.
So this is a different sister than the one that died.
No, this is the sister that died. That I only had one sister and 2 brothers. But it was during that
The
time.
one that was supposed to come into be born with you, though, was that the same sister that decided?
Oh, no. You're right. Sophie would have been my sister. She would have been my twin.
Right.
My sister who died was my younger sister,
Right.
born after me, but she was not Sophie.
Okay.
So
Because I
far,
remember coming in, and then my mother had a miscarriage, and I said, I got to get back. So I came in the next time.
right.
Yeah.
It might have been you deciding. I don't know. It wasn't the right timing for you.
Yeah.
or
Well, I
something
remember
in her
I had
body.
to get in, so there wasn't too much age between me and Sasha because that
Yeah.
was ridiculous. So
Because you were trying to get here to be with him. He's your twin
yes,
flame. Yeah.
yes, that's my twin flame, and I was trying to be with him, but
Yeah.
he was way ahead of me. He's
You were
14
trying to be alive at the same time as him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'm familiar with the Dr. Michael. Like I said, I've got all the books,
Yeah.
tried to do it. I do a lot of hypnosis with people. I've done my own endless therapy because I'm an experiencer like you. So, okay, so go ahead, back in your
Okay.
flow.
So
Sorry, I did
anyway,
interrupt.
so that's the kind of stories I share in this book. Let's see. There are 19. I don't know.
When you
What?
did that regression with the life between lives, did you find your sister that did die of cancer?
Yes, I did. Her name was Anne, and I saw her. And I wanted to know why. I knew she didn't want to die then, because she had 2 daughters, and I knew she told me she didn't want to die just in the days before she died. But when you're over there in the life between life place, you probably know, everything is mental telepathy.
Right.
And it's so beautiful that there's no misunderstanding. There's no need for words. Words suddenly start to feel so heavy and so clumsy. So like while I'm over there, my body didn't go over, in case
Right.
listeners are thinking. No, my body's laying on a chaise with the psychologist, but my consciousness is totally not there. Although I can hear him, and he's like a nag holding on to me. He's wanting me to tell him things and answer questions, but I can't find the words
Right.
because everything is mental telepathy, and it's so difficult. I don't want to pay attention to the world where he is. I just want to pay attention,
Right.
and we are wherever our consciousness is, because we don't need a body for consciousness.
Right.
What happens when you die? Nothing happens when you die, because you were conscious before you took a body, and you're conscious after you don't have a body. And when you're doing this life between life, you know that your consciousness is truly who you are. We are not our body. We are not our ego. We are our consciousness. And it's so free. You're so happy. You feel such love. And you can understanding every being you see there. And my sister just communicated right into my heart, the heart of my consciousness, which was just consciousness without a body, really, more like if it had to be something, it was an oval of light. And she said, I had set a task. I had set a task to overcome attachment. So I had to be profoundly attached to my children, to my husband, and then leave. And then comes my dad, who is also over there, had died. And he says, into my mind, with mental telepathy, the angels cheered for her because she accomplished what she wanted to do. She did leave when she didn't want to leave. She detached. So that answered that question. But it also answered this question about consciousness definitively for me, because I had read and thought I understood, because of astral travel and because of out-of-body experiences where you can see your body lying across the room on the bed, that consciousness is not in your body. And I mean, what are you seeing with? When you wake up out of your body, you don't have eyes, you don't have a body. Well, you have a subtle body, but it doesn't have eyes with a retina and all that, because that's over there on the bed. lying there.
Right.
So you know that your consciousness does not need a body. You can see everything, you can understand everything without a body. So if we understand that about consciousness, we're so free. We don't have to be afraid of death.
Right.
Because when your body's lying on the bed, you're not in it. There's no part of you that's in it. You can be like, and in your dreams every night, I have dreamt of myself on other planets. I have dreamt about the see the Earth.
Yeah,
From
I've traveled since I was a little girl going out of body, but I'm 70, so there was no one to talk to about it. I was in a very Christian family. It's like, I'm not going to tell these people; they'll think I'm nuts. So I didn't feel safe. But yeah, I've been in other planets. I've traveled around the whole Earth. I've had the experience of kind of flying like Superman. I've gone down into the inner Earth. So I have all this awareness, but it's like no one to talk to for, until this current age where more people are having experience.
Until you met Sasha and you could tell him everything.
Of course I can tell him. He's
connected.
And I did all this regression therapy I married my therapist because I had so much going on my entire life. I didn't know anyone else like me. It was just hard. Like, what is going on?
Yes.
So you have similar things, but this could be more common, but it's repressed because people are afraid to talk about it.
Yeah, they're getting more willing to talk about it. But the other thing that happens is I think all little children see a lot of things and understand a lot of things before they reach the age of reason. But education, sit in your desk and learn your numbers and, we get educated to focus on this reality because there are multiple realities very close to this one, but we block them out because we learn mostly because the eyes we have and all the senses are designed for this reality that we project and then perceive. So by the age of 7, which people consider the age of reason, most of us are having all the regular brainwave. Up until 7, theta, because we have so much to learn. We have to learn how to see, to walk, to crawl, to all that stuff.
Yeah.
So we gradually shut down our awareness. All the things you do and did as a little girl, you start tuning into this life on Earth, and you believe that it's real and physical, even though physicists tell us it's not real. It's a simulation.
Right. That's it. Like, I didn't anchor in completely. I didn't decide I was going to stay until about between 18 and 24 months. It was like always a big maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. And
you have the choice until you're 2 years old to leave. And that's what a lot of babies do. That's what crib death is, I think. They decide, I'm not staying.
Yeah, this isn't for me. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't for me. I can't take this dimension. I'm in this helpless little body that I don't know how to operate. And I don't know what I'm perceiving and seeing. It's very hard for us to incarnate, to shrink down.
It's heavy. It's dense.
Yeah, we fold up and shrink into the body. We're grander. We are divine. We are divine. But we forget. We come to Earth, we get accustomed to this, and we forget our own divinity and our own power. And so maybe later, it starts to open up again for some people. They find the right books, or they find the right other people, or they find the right teachers, or angels appear to them, or Jesus appears to them.
All the above.
All of the above. And then they get
my mother crazy because I had this greater awareness, and I kept talking to her about it. And of course, it offended her Christian values. It's like, oh, this is demonic. This is Satan.
Oh,
Very, very hard. Yeah. So, well, what's your second chapter about? So you got
the first one is about before birth, right? Let me see. Let me look at the table of contents.
Great.
The second chapter.
Did you recall your mission and the reason you decided to incarnate?
Not until I was much older. I was such a slow learner. I was still awake in first grade, and the second chapter, it goes from before birth, and the second chapter, I'm 6 years old, and I'm in first grade. And, you know, I'm subtracting tomatoes from tomatoes to see how many tomatoes are left, or whatever.
Right.
And the teacher is coming around, Miss McGinnis. And
I
look,
Miss McGinnis too.
you had a Miss McGinnis?
Yeah.
So I look up and I say, Miss McGinnis, what are we all doing here? And she shuts me down totally. She says something to me, which is like a non sequitur. I don't know why she said that. At the time, I'll never forget this moment. I didn't know what she was talking about. She said, I say,
Oh, I'm gonna stop on the radio. So come in quietly. Okay, I'm going to go off. I'm live, so I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay. He forgot where he was.
Yeah.
He's in
anyway, I said, Miss McGinnis. No, Mimi.
Oh, you got a
cat. One of my cats. I have 2 cats and a dog. They're all roaming around here. What are we all doing here? And she says to me, this little 6-year-old in her little tiny desk with her fat green pencil, no computers yet. She says, aren't you Christian? And I was like, no, but I said, what does that have to do? You know, what I'm asking you is, what are we doing here? Like all of us living on Earth. She just didn't grasp it. Yeah. So I started talking about what it was like to try to squeeze in to my body as and learn about what I know that's where that I call that chapter the question, me asking her. Oh yeah, and I also talk about that chapter about that time when I was in first grade. My grandfather died, my father's father. He had just finished. My father bought a barn, and my grandfather turned it into a house for us. And he died. He got lung cancer and died. And we had a garden in the back, and I would always like to be out in the garden with my father, digging and planting. And my grandfather would just come in the garden and talk to my father, and I could see him there. So I talk about that, like how my grandfather would just come and they would be standing by the lettuce talking. And that's
your father
talking to my father. Yes.
Did you ever talk to your father about talking to your grandfather?
Oh yeah. I said I would, well, I didn't have big conversations with him, but I would say things to him like referring to the fact that I saw him, and he would just smile at me, not go into it. But he would defend my little sister after she was born when she would say things that she was out over the reservoir and she saw a flying saucer or whatever. Back then they were called flying saucers. And my mother would be like, she's got to stop talking like this. She's going to have to go to school soon. People will think she's crazy. And my father would say, oh, and my mother would add, because we don't want her to turn out like Susan, like me, you know. And so my father would say, look, he said, I had out-of-body experiences as a child. I astral traveled. I had remote viewing. She's little. She's having remote viewing. He would try to, my father was aware because he had had visitations. My
Right.
mother was not having it, not having it.
Right.
This is reality.
Yeah,
These
that's reality. So they demonize whatever. My mother did the same thing, even
it
though
was
she was talking to
scary.
her mother.
It was too scary for them. They didn't want to know about it. But my sister she was more powerful and sweeter and in touch with things than I was. And my father understood that. But my mother, she just wanted, I think you want your kids to be safe. You want them to be accepted. You want them to get along. You don't want people to think they're freaks. So you think you're doing the right thing for them by shutting down the power that we all children have. All of us have it. Most of us get shut down, and then we gradually reopen it through experiences that we have later, which is what happened to me. I shut it down and became a good girl.
Your sister saw them over the reservoir, and I had a client that said the same thing. They came
Really?
out to the lake, and when she observed them, they were taking up water. Did she ever see anything like that?
She didn't say. If she did, I don't remember. But she told me that more than once she saw them over the reservoir. And this reservoir is the Ashokan Reservoir, which feeds New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived not far from that reservoir growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And she said she had seen them there before. Once when I was out, we were astral traveling together. And she said, "Oh, I've seen them before." And the thing was that they didn't take off or anything. Just the next second, they weren't there.
Right.
They were there, and then they weren't there.
Yeah.
And that was so weird to us.
Like,
where'd they go? So that is in the second
chapter.
Is
Interdimensionally. Probably.
Yeah, I guess.
Mentioned. Yeah. Okay.
Then the next chapter, I talk about. I jump to 13, but a little more interesting one is after that, I jumped to 19. I'm on Okinawa, and I have an experience with Bigfoot. And I think now, looking back, I don't know if what I encountered was a thought form, someone's thought form of Bigfoot, or Bigfoot. And I knew nothing about Bigfoot. It was only years later when I was reading how Bigfoot was being kept because Bigfoot creatures could survive a nuclear war better than humans, and they were being kept by whom I don't know as hosts for human consciousness if we blew ourselves up the way Maldek did. So I see this in the middle of the night. I wake up on all fours. I'm newly married to a guy in special forces who's stationed on Okinawa, which is why I'm there. And so I'm alone a lot while he's flying missions, spying places. And I encounter this Bigfoot, and I didn't know what it was. It was, to me, I couldn't tell first I was facing it, and then it was me. Then I thought it was actually me, and I was looking out through its vision, which was slightly different than mine. And then I was screaming, I guess, and it woke up my husband, who freaked out. His face freaked out. He didn't scream or anything. Like, I think whatever he saw, I don't know what he saw. Maybe he just saw my face looking weird or something. But he said, "Don't ever scare me like that again." I mean, I was 19. He was 23. We were kids, both of us.
Yeah.
We were kids.
Just a bad dream.
Yeah, but it wasn't a dream.
No.
But a few nights later, he brought a psychiatrist home from work, one of the officers who was a
Uh-huh.
psychiatrist, because I think he thought I was cracking up, I think. I don't know what he thought. But so yeah, I talk about my Bigfoot experience.
So what did the psychiatrist do?
He just wanted to, I guess he was just doing a like verbal assessment to see if I needed help or medication. But I explained to him what happened, that it was a one-off, that I had other experiences, but nothing like that. He was a friend of my husband's, but another officer,
Another officer.
Anyway, we got over that. And he left without locking me up.
Yay, thank
then I talk about an angel visitation, but then I jump to my 20s, where I'm at the Berkeley Psychic Institute in California. Because that marriage ended in divorce. And I was married to somebody else and living in Berkeley, California. But I wasn't happy in the marriage. And I was walking down Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, and I saw a sign for the Berkeley Psychic Institute. It's now 1979, something like that. Berkeley's still kind of Berkeley.
Right.
So I go in, I make an appointment. A week or so later is my appointment. I go in, they take me to a room upstairs. I'm face to face with an intuitive, a psychic, who is starting to read the levels of my chakras. How open were they at birth? How open are they now? Stuff like that. And suddenly the Berkeley Psychic Institute was a 3-story yellow old house with big wraparound porch at that time. The whole house is shaking.
Oh, wow.
So I'm looking up, I'm looking at her, and I say, is this house shaking? The next thing that happens is the door to the room opens. 2 more psychics come in, an older man and an older woman. So the 3 of them are sitting down in front of me. And they say, there's an entity attached to you, draining you, does not want you to have this session, and is shaking the building. But they stabilize it. The 3 of them somehow stabilize it. And then they say, we have to remove this entity who is hooked in to your solar plexus. But it appears that you made a contract with this person, this being, or your higher self did. So you have to ask your higher self for permission to break that. And then you have to agree that you want it broken. So we go through these procedures where I contact my higher self, I ask, and we end it. It doesn't take that long. They tell me how to find out who it is. So I hypnotize myself, go into a slightly altered state, and I follow the cord that I didn't know was there till they tell me, to another planet where I'm about to board a spaceship, and I see my current husband. Looks a little different, but I know it's him. He's not allowed to board this spaceship for some reason. But he's looking at me, and I'm looking at him, and I'm backing on this cigar-shaped spaceship.
Yeah.
And I realized at that moment that that's who is draining me, my current husband.
Oh.
So we break the tie. What they do, the psychics, I think they don't cut the cord. I don't know what they did. They said it wasn't some other way. They dissolve it and send it back. But meanwhile, I have to go back to my house in Berkeley where he is, and I'm married to him.
Right.
But they tell me, look in the mirror before you leave. And I did look. I mean, I was I was still 28 or 29 years old, but I looked freer to myself. Anyway, I went back. I did not tell him about the cord thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I told him that I wanted to leave, that I was going to go back to New York and go to graduate school and become a psychologist.
Wow.
He was like, "What? Where did this come from?" I said, "I don't know, but this is what I have to do." So I picked up the telephone. There was no computers yet. And I called the New School for Social Research in New York City, and I asked them to snail mail me an application. And I applied, and I was accepted, and I left a couple months later, left Berkeley and came back to New York and went to graduate school. So I started graduate school around age 30. And I
Wow.
did graduate school then for 9 years getting a PhD, because at the New School, it takes a long time to get a PhD in psychology because you have to do internships and all that stuff.
Wow.
Anyway, that's how I became a psychologist.
Well, that's interesting. So what happened to the second ex?
He just recently died. He was 16 years older than me. He was the guy that invented the slogan, the Pepsi generation. He had been a Madison Avenue ad exec. And when we met at the Algonquin Hotel in New York City because he was starting a free university called Apple Skills Exchange, which was going to be cheap classes for a month in artist studios, people's kitchens if it was cooking classes, clown workshop, moped maintenance. That was the days of moped, Jungian dream analysis, theater workshop, massage workshop. People were taking it was wonderful. I mean, he was a genius.
Yeah.
He was a genius.
Did he create that, or he started Free University?
He started it. He was
in Honolulu at the time, and he was a college professor, and he was offering classes in Free University.
Yeah.
University of Hawaii, Manoa, I think it was.
Yeah, this was just done. This was just done. Artists, teachers all over New York City in their own studios and homes through ads in the Village Voice. Now, it was ingenious and it was beautiful.
Right.
So we met, I think, in 1977 or 76, and we worked together on this. And then we moved to Berkeley after he hired a comptroller who had just gotten out of prison for embezzling, but he didn't tell me that the guy had just gotten out of prison for embezzlement until I had a dream of the guy stealing away on a donkey with gold saddlebags filled with gold. And then he told me, but he then, at the same time he tells me that, he said, "Well, Al has been missing for 2 days, and so is our checkbook."
Oh, no.
Put us out of business. So that's when we went to Berkeley, and that happened. So I briefly in this book about the details of that. It's mostly the details of the spiritual experience, the transcendent, paranormal experiences. But
how did you end up separating from him, or did you wait till he died?
I went back. I said, "I'm going to New York. I'm leaving you. I'm going to graduate school," and that was it. A month later,
got a divorce then.
we got a divorce after I was back in New York. Mostly he was able to do that because he met someone else right after I left, because the guy was magnetic.
Right.
He was a magnetic guy. And I was busy in graduate school, but then I was meeting people too. So we just got it. It was easy.
Easier.
Because we had no children together and no property. So it wasn't like it like a deal. So that's
what happened next. That's fascinating.
What happened? So that was, I guess, that was the experience in the 20s. Then the next experience I report, shape-shifting. I wouldn't have never known this, or I've never really seen anyone do it. But after I'd been back in New York about 6 months or so, a friend of mine was moving to a new apartment, she and her husband, and she asked me to help her come and unload the truck. And I was 30 years old, strong. So I said, yeah. So I'm waiting in the lobby to help her. Her husband's going to bring the U-Haul. And a guy walks in, wouldn't you know, to the lobby. And he has a mohawk and he's carrying a guitar and a violin in their cases. And he sits down, he says hi. I say hi. He says, I'm Robin. I say, I'm Susan. And then Maggie comes in and she says, oh, I see you've met. And so her husband had asked him and she had asked me. So we unload the truck and I meet this guy. And I think he's an interesting guy, a bright guy, Harvard man, even though he has a mohawk, because he's a musician. And then a couple of weeks later, Maggie says, let's go to the bottom line. And they're playing. And so then I see him again. We start to date. And 3 months later, we move in together, which is what you do when you're 30 years old. You meet a guy you like, you move in. City rent is expensive. So we're making love. In the beginning, you're always making love a lot with a new person.
Right.
So I see him looking at my eyes in a very weird way. And he's like looking at me. But I don't think anything of it. We fall asleep. It's late. The next night I come home from class. I was working in the day as a waitress. So I was in school at night. I come home and he's writing a song called The Girl with the Golden Eyes. Well, I have brown eyes, not gold eyes. I say, so what's with that? What's with the girl with the golden eyes? And he says, well, when we make love, you change. I said, what do you mean I change? He said, well, your face has a slightly different shape. Your eyes turn bright gold. Your neck is a little longer. I said, you mean I shape shift? You didn't tell me this when it was that. He said, well, I was a little freaked out by it. But I was wanting to have a few more experiences to see if it would keep happening. So I don't know what to make of this. I'm totally not aware of this when we're having sex. The sex is great, but I'm not aware of this. So I go to this psychic I know, and she says, oh, that's nothing. You just appear to him in your Atlantean form because you had a life together on Atlantis. So that's all it is. Oh, don't worry about it. That's all it is.
Totally makes sense.
So there was only one other guy subsequent to that had that same experience. And we also had a life on Atlantis, it turns out. But none of the other men I've ever been with that has never happened. Or at least they never said anything.
Right. Yeah.
After shape shifting, so then eventually he and I break up because I don't know why, because I was in graduate school and I was working all the time, and I met a guy in graduate school, a Persian, a wonderful Persian guy who I married, and I have a 30-year-old daughter. And we moved into a garden apartment. And so the next was called Garden Gnomes and Fairies. And gardening was, I love trees and plants. Love them. Probably from my early days with my dad and with Sophie, my imaginary friend, teaching me about them. Anyway, I wake up in the middle of one night after we move into the garden apartment, and I'm standing at the screen window looking into the garden, which is right there. And I'm doing a double take because there's this magical child in the garden with these huge eyes, and she's pointing out things. She's showing me fairies and gnomes and like little dwarfs. And I'm just like, look, my mind is totally blown. I just can't believe that I'm seeing into this other world. It was one of the, if not the most magical, most numinous experiences of my life. I just like walked around for days, like wanting to see that again. And when I couldn't see it in the day, and when I looked in the night, I couldn't see it. It was just that moment I was given that privilege of seeing that.
Uh-huh.
And that was just wonderful. Um, then by that time I'm a psychologist, and I write about a patient who comes to me with fear of flying. She's an event planner. Most of the events she plans are in Europe. She's been flying to Europe every week for a decade. Suddenly, she develops fear of flying.
Wow.
This is a strange thing. So I say to her, first of all, she tells me this, and I say to her, I think we should just rule something out. I want you to see this psychic, Alexandra, in the West Village. I want to know what's going on here, because this is not the way a typical fear develops.
Right.
So, I mean, treating it with any way you would treat a phobia is probably not going to work. We have to find, I don't want to see a psychic, she says. I don't want to see a psychic. Okay. I said, okay, we'll try to work on it, but I think you should. No, I don't want to. So she leaves my office, and I'm sitting in the chair, and I'm feeling totally overwhelmed. And I can't remember what is in the hall outside my office door. I think it's the ocean. And
Mhm.
I will not get up out of my chair until I can recall what is really outside the office, because whenever I think of it, it's just the Atlantic Ocean.
Mhm. Wow.
Finally, I managed to recall that it's a hallway with 3 closets facing my office and then 2 exits on either end, but it rattles me. So I work with her for a few weeks. We make no progress, really. Um, yet she says, "Well, I have to go to Zurich. I have an event in Zurich, and I feel queasy in my stomach." And I say, "Don't go on the flight. Don't go. If you feel queasy in your stomach, in addition to your general fear when you get on the plane, don't do it." She gets on the plane. It's a night flight. I go to bed, and I dream that I'm in the sky over the ocean, and I see all these lights floating up. I know one of them is her, and I go after her and try to grab her, but a gate, like an energetic gate, closes, and I can't get her. I wake up the next morning, the front page of the New York Times. The flight to Zurich has gone down in the Atlantic Ocean. There are no survivors.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
I then go to the psychic and ask, why wouldn't she come? Why wouldn't she not go on the flight? And the
Uh-huh.
psychic tells me that for each of their own reasons, everyone on that flight agreed to that death,
Mhm.
to let this go. At the time, I had a toddler, like in a stroller, and I'm walking along and I see my patient's picture on the front page of the New York Times, along
Wow.
with the other people. It was a nightmarish time that I could not help her. It was, but that I tried to go after her in my dream. So I was out of my body, obviously,
Mhm.
trying to pull her, but not able to get her. Not able to get her to come down.
Well, let me a little side on that. We have a friend that her son would not get on the flight to Lockerbie, Scotland. He just refused. He was at the gate. He just hunkered down. He screamed, and so the
He
mom said
knew.
he knew, and then it went down, and I got goosebumps. So yeah, when you know, you
We
know.
know things. We know things. We don't always want to know what we know.
Right?
Whoa. Whoa.
Goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah. I bet people had that feeling about the Titanic too.
Yeah. I don't want to
You know,
do.
but
And you,
we're taught to tune it out. We're
right.
taught not to listen. don't listen to your stuff.
Wow.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we're getting near the end of our hour, so
we are. So we can do some more another time if you're available, because this is fascinating, and I love this.
Anybody can read all 19 of these things in this book, A Jungian Understanding of Transcendent Experiences, part of a series called Paranormal Perspectives, which was put together by Gavin Davies. Gavin is this wonderful guy at Collective Ink Publishing. You know Gavin, right?
I do.
He is the greatest. He will be one of the 5 authors. As we speak right now today, 2 of the books are out. Mine, and there's a second one out by a paranormal researcher. He researches a lot of where ghosts might be, an English guy, John. So it's a his book is called One Big Box of Paranormal Tricks. And it's a slightly different version of paranormal. It's a different perspective on the paranormal. Mine is my personal life. His is his paranormal research. And there are 3 more, Gavin's and 2 others. So we'll all have their own perspective. But as we speak, 2 of the 5 are out. 3 are coming over the next few months. So if you're into the paranormal, look for this series, Paranormal Perspectives, on Amazon or wherever you buy your books.
Right.
And if you're into one person's paranormal life, me, if you want to learn about paranormal research, get One Big Box of Tricks, John's book.
So let's do one more.
Okay, you want to hear one more? Let's see. What one more?
Did you have any extraterrestrial?
My thing. Oh, I guess people are usually interested in astral projection, and out of body experiences. I could tell you mine, but let me tell you my daughter's, because hers is more recent. I mean, I go to other planets, but we live in New York City. And, she came into my room one morning as I was writing this book, actually, and she said, "Mom, a weird thing happened." I said, "What's that?" She said, "I just woke up and I was in the Mediterranean Sea on a small island, and I was trying to get out of a cabana, and then I looked across the room and I saw the little green light on the thing that goes into my computer. And then I looked further into the room and I saw my body lying on the bed. And I realized, oh, how can I be in the Mediterranean Sea?" So she had astral travel. Her consciousness went, because there was a guy there that she cared about over on the Mediterranean. And I think she just astral traveled. She did it 3 times in the space of a couple of weeks. So she got less afraid of it. But she would wake up still not in her body and see, like, the computer, like, it freaked her out. Like, she could then say, like, what she wanted to know was, how can I see my body if my eyes are in my body? You know, seeing her consciousness.
Right.
Consciousness does the seeing.
Yeah.
There's one for you. Like, she's a powerful child, and everybody can do this stuff. Everybody does it every night. We all do our bodies every night. We just usually don't wake up till we get back in. Sometimes we dream we're falling. That's we're about to wake up and jump back in.
Well, I do the bilocating thing. I'm still there.
Wow, you're a shaman. Janet, you're a shaman.
Something I tell and sometimes I have my husband, I go, don't wake me fully. I'm here and I'm there. So let me hold this space for a bit. and I'll come back here and I'm able to talk. But I'm really weird. I don't. But
You're
maybe
very
you are.
powerful. You're
Yeah.
very powerful.
So are you.
Well, I just had a bunch of experiences
Yeah.
that
Well.
anyone can have.
Mhm.
And I think we forget them. I forgot a lot of this stuff until Gavin asked me to write the book. So God bless Gavin. That's what I
I'm
say.
writing my books, and I've realized I'm just unpacking things like 2 years
Yes.
at a time, because once you start, it's like Russian
More
doll. You get
comes.
more comes. Like, well, I realize I can't just try to. I try to do one each decade because I'm 70, right? I go, no, this is not going to work. So anyway, I'm doing a whole series. I don't know why. It's for me. It doesn't have to be for.
Yes.
It's for me.
And
Uh,
to share, if you want to share it, because I
yeah.
think books, when those of us who have these experiences, I mean, I think this series that Gavin started will help people, because if other people start to have experiences like you've had or I've had, they won't be so freaked out. They'll see that we are not
Right.
our body. We are our consciousness, and our consciousness does not need a body. It's free.
It's free. When I was growing up, there were so few. There were so few books, and I was
Yeah.
just starving for information.
You had Jane Roberts Seth,
Right?
and later we had the raw material.
We had Ruth Montgomery
Yeah.
and
The
Edgar
Law of One, raw.
Yeah, Edgar Casey. Just very
Yeah.
few things. Occasional ET UFO book, not very much at all. It was like
Yeah.
one little segment on a shelf with other types of books. On the
Yeah.
books,
Well, now we're in the age of Aquarius. We're fully
right?
in the age of Aquarius, and more information is coming out.
So we have
More is coming to
minutes.
light.
Do you have time for your astral story? And that'll be the last
Oh,
one.
yes, of course.
Okay, 4 minutes. About
Oh, you want me to tell my story?
yeah, you have your. You said
Oh,
you're going
okay.
to tell my daughter's story
This
first.
one is not even in the book. I didn't even put this one in the
Okay.
book. It's that I wake up. I mean, I'm not. I don't know what my body's doing, but I am on a platform in space, and I'm looking out, and I see the Earth, like the way it looks in the NASA photos. But so that's how far away from it I am.
Uh-huh.
This platform has no walls, no roof, nothing. I'm looking at it, and suddenly it flips upside down. The Earth.
Uh-huh.
I see the Earth flip upside down. So I'm like wigged out about this. So then I think, I don't know what I think, but the next scene, I'm on some planet I've never been on before, and I'm entering a cave, and I still see the Earth there, but I've left the platform. And then I see my parents, first my father, kind of in a subtle body, and then my mother entering this cave. And it reminds me of like Jung when he had his experience and he went toward the rock.
Uh-huh.
And I watch them go in, and then I wake up. And then a few days later, I get a call that my father has fallen and he's in the hospital. And I know the Earth turning upside down, my father's going to die. He's entering the cave. My mother's, she's probably going to die too. So I get to spend the last week of his life with him because I saw the Earth flip upside down. So I'm going to the cave in my out of body space.
Isn't that wonderful? You tell
Yeah.
yourself things that you need to know just in time.
Your dreams will tell you what you need to know.
Right.
Your dreams will tell you what you need to know. Even if they have to take you to outer space and into another planet, into a cave or something, they will tell you.
I'll have to do a session with you sometime when I have some dreams. I'll do a
Yes.
session with you. Yeah.
There's a new dream book just was published yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
Which Sasha should know about too. It's
Uh-huh.
called Dreamwise. It's on Amazon.
Lisa Deborah Stewart.
Lisa Marciano, Dreamwise. That's the title. If you will like this, they're good.
Yes.
3 people wrote it, 3 Jungian analysts.
So we do a lot of dream work too, but it's nice to get a different perspective.
Yeah. Of
Yeah,
course.
his husband, and he's really good, but it's like,
It's good to get a different perspective. Yes.
Yeah, so I probably will call you for book a session when I have my next interesting dream. But my dreams are like yours. I'm in space, on other planets. Do you have any idea why some people have more earthbound dreams and then some people are like us?
I think someone like you who's had all kinds of experiences remembers them. I think other people may have them, but they would repress it probably because it would be too scary.
Yeah, I think that's part of the fear.
Yeah.
The
fear stops things.
Right. If you believe it, you'll see it. The more you are open, the more you get.
If you contract, you won't see as much.
Right.
But everybody's built the same way we're built. We all have consciousness, which is free of our body. If we just allow it to roam, it'll come back home.
Right. I guess some people get afraid they're going to break their cords and float away. But, you're always there. Wherever you go, there you are. So even if you die, it's not the worst thing.
Yeah.
One last question. We're a little bit over, but we can do. Have you encountered people that have simultaneous incarnations?
I think all the incarnations are actually simultaneous.
And that's what I'm having. And I'm aware. So I'll say to Sasha, well, I was just working my other job last night, and I have an office building in this town. It's between the big two trees.
Yes.
And building's building to the trees, so I know it's not Earth because it's a building built into the trees.
I think all our incarnations are simultaneously. But we keep them separate. And even if it's in a different century that we think we're living in, they're simultaneous.
It's simultaneous, right?
Yeah.
What would you like to say to our listeners?
Thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please buy the book. It's on Amazon. The title is Jungian.
I'm going to go buy it.
Jungian, Understanding. My name is Susan Plunkett with one T. Plunkett has one T. If you like this stuff, buy the book. And you can buy books in the whole series. If you're into the paranormal, there's going to be 5 books, different aspects of it.
To have a good book around. You never know when the lights are going to go off and you have no internet. We have
books are comfortable.
Just now again, it's like, I need a book, right?
I need books to go to sleep.
Yeah.
I read myself to sleep every night.
Well, it's a great health practice to have a ritual to unwind.
Yeah.
And reading a book. And I've gotten away from that because we sleep different cycles. I don't want to wake him up. He's already in bed. But but oh well, it's fine. Okay, Susan, as always, it's been a delight. Namaste.
And thank you so much, Janet, for having me.
And when your schedule's open, let me know. We'll have you on tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to end the stream.
Bye, everyone. Good night. Good afternoon. It's afternoon for you. It's evening for me.
Good wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.